Looking back on the week that was and forward to the week ahead. It's the Fantasy Football Hustle. Here are your hosts, Brian Drake and Dwain McFarland.
All across the fantasy universe. Crack a beer, sit back, and relax. It's the Fantasy Football Hustle powered by Pro Football Focus. I'm, of course, your host, Brian Drake. You can read my stuff over at fightingchancefantasy.com. I'm joined, as always, by the analytical assassin. It's PFF senior fantasy analyst, Mr. Dwain McFarland. Just fresh off a bit over on SiriusXM. I pried him away from Bob Harris and Mike Dempsey, the football diehards, where he crushed a segment over there. If you're not on SiriusXM or you have the app, go back and listen to it. Great segment over there, Dwain. And what I want to do with you tonight, my friend, is this is like, you know, that time when you're like, I got to bust one out quick. You run upstairs, you get that Pornhub, you know, the kids are downstairs in the car waiting for you. You got to get this one over with quick. That's what tonight's hustle is. Boom, 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 boom. We're out the door.
Let's do it. You know, I'm so good at that format, Drake. I never take my time with any kind of answer. I just, quick hitters.
Quick hitters. Ask me anything. We're writing a thread here. You want a thread?
I love Toronto,
this is the thread.
Toronto
So
Dave.
show threads.
Toronto Dave, he's in here. He says, I'm ready to overreact as a motherfucker.
That's
I
right.
think that might be the title of the show. I love it, Toronto Dave.
NFL training camps across the country are open, folks. So that means one thing. It's overreaction season. That's right. Any nugget from any jack-off beat writer, any blurb that mentions any fantasy relevant player, any rumor heard by a neighbor's, girlfriend's, cousin's, uncle moves the needle for fantasy football. We're so desperate for any nugget that whatever comes out, we are going to overreact to. ADP is going to change. We're going to make wild swinging generalizations based off one sentence in an article, published on some blog. So that's what we're doing today. We're going to take a deep breath and evaluate these early camp overreactions, okay? And because I know some of you are drafting, you're going over to Underdog. You're using promo code HUSTLE. You're piling up teams in the Pomeranian that just filled. You're in Best Ball Mania 3. You're $5, $10, $50, whatever you got. You're drafting teams. You want to know who you should be taking with those late round sleepers. Maybe it should have been a guy like Julio Jones, who we're going to talk about tonight. But make sure you're using promo code HUSTLE over at Underdog Fantasy. We're going to match your first deposit up to $100. It's awesome. It's a great time. You're going to love it. So, Dwain, let's start in Tampa, where the news came fast and furious on Tuesday. Let's start with Chris Godwin not being placed on the PUP list to open camp. Remember, the Bucs wide receiver was recovering from a torn ACL in week 15 last year. We're not talking like week 2. This is week 15. These ACL recoveries are just insane how fast guys are coming back from. So over on Underdog, Dwain, Godwin still is the second Bucs receiver coming off the board. He's wide receiver 30, 6th round pick. People kind of forget, though, how good his season was before the injury. In those 14 games, he caught 98 balls for over 1,100 yards. And if he can return to full health at any point, maybe it's week 1 or if he's on the PUP week 5, he's going to be an asset for fantasy. So let's start with that nugget first. You hear that Godwin is not on the PUP. Initial reaction for his fantasy outlook for 2022.
Honestly, it's kind of confusing because – and we kind of have to pair these two stories together, right? With the Julio Jones signing. Mm-hmm. So if Chris Godwin really doesn't need to be on the PUP, you've already signed Russell Gage, you've got Mike Evans there. Like, what's the point in Julio Jones? Like, Julio Jones's best fit is going to be as a big slot guy, right? At this point in his career. And Jones flashed some nice things last year, but Russell Gage is a much better fit to really take the role that Antonio Brown leaves behind, right? He's the guy that you're going to pass the ball to where you need quick strikes against man coverage, that sort of thing. More of a route runner, a guy that's really excelled. I mean, Russell Gage last year, people don't realize, like, people want to discount it and they put him in the same bucket with Alan Lazard and with Marquise Valdes-Scantling. I don't consider them to be in the same bucket at all. Like, I'm down on Lazard. I'm down on, Marquise Valdes-Scantling, but Russell Gage had actually already flashed some really good metrics over the last couple of years. Didn't play in a necessarily great offense, so it led to a wide receiver 4 finish in fantasy. But like his PFF receiving grade was a 76 overall. That's wide receiver 2, territory historically. Targets per route run 24%, and most importantly, targets per route run against man coverage 35%. That was Antonio Brown's role last year. And so when I look at Julio, he's really more of a replacement for Godwin, right? The kind of bigger guy, maybe not the best, route runner. Good, but physical, can win at the catch point, can run after the catch. So honestly, I'm kind of confused. Like, Godwin's not on the pup. We now have, Julio Jones, and who knows, maybe Julio Jones is just depth, right? And it just happens that these two things come out on the same day. And so we're just, we're mixing our signals here. But looking at Godwin, knowing that he's not on the pup, and the original thoughts here, right, from the medical community were that Godwin, based on NFL terms, like, would probably not be cleared to play until mid-October or early November. And now he's ready for training camp?
It's crazy.
Like, yeah, I know he's not going to be in full practice and they're going to take it slow with him when you really read it. And I think that's where the challenge comes in, Drake. Every single one of these teams handle these situations differently. Some teams just come right out and say, boom, pup. And they could be off the pup tomorrow, right? Boom, pup. They could be off, in 2 weeks. Then there's others where it's like a guy like Godwin. Like, I don't know what's going to happen, with Chris Godwin, but I had to move him up in my ranks. So I've already updated my ranks over on PFF. If folks want to go check it out, you can see them there. Not in my tier articles. Those will update once they refresh, probably next week. But if you go over and you click on the draft tools and you look at the pre-draft rankings, or rankings for your draft, or if you're on the app, you're using the beta version, like, this stuff will all update tomorrow over there. But the other stuff is updated tonight. I just did it, before I jumped on with Bob Harris and Mike Dempsey. So I had to move Godwin up, Drake. I had based on the thought that he may not play until mid-October. I had Godwin well below ADP. So I've at least moved him back in alignment with ADP. And I actually moved him a little ahead of it because we know ADP is going to move up a little bit from this, but I stuck him in tier 3A. If I knew Chris Godwin was completely healthy, I would rank him ahead of Mike Evans, but I don't know that, right? And so right now I've got him in tier 3A. So I've got Chris Godwin, Rashad Bateman, Amon-Ra St. Brown, Jerry Jeudy, Juju Smith-Schuster. These guys are all in the same tier here together. Godwin, if he was healthy, would probably be in the tier with T. Higgins, maybe Deebo Samuel and AJ Brown, somewhere around there, but much higher if I knew he was fully healthy. So I went ahead and moved him up. I'm much more willing to take Godwin now at ADP. Of course, now his ADP is going to rise. So we'll have to see how much that rises. Like, if his ADP rises to like, wide receiver 18. Yeah, see, even Ruby disagrees. Wide receiver 18 is just, too expensive. All of my dogs disagree, apparently. Like, I have no clue what's going on in the other room.
Because Julio,
I'm about to die
ages
right
in dog
now,
years
Drake,
too.
on air.
Yeah, they don't care. Exactly. Yeah, Julio ages in dog years. So Julio, who's 33 in human years, we've got issues here. Everyone's going to go crazy because they love the name Julio Jones. Here he comes, 33 years old. He's played in 19 games over the last 2 years due to this bulky hamstring. Okay. And you're going to read on Twitter and everywhere. And I know, Dwain, you've put out some great stuff too. There are some fantastic underlying metrics for what Julio did when he was on the field in Tennessee. But I know the casual drafter. I am the hero of the home league, and they are scared to death of this guy because you're going to walk up to the board and you're going to be in late August putting a sticker on the board. How confident, Dwain, can a guy be in Julio Jones, a guy who never practices, plays hokey pokey with being on the actual football field, as a good investment for their fantasy football team, just because now he's playing with Tom Brady? I'm petrified to put Julio Jones on my roster because I don't think he can play 17 games.
Yeah, it's interesting you say that. I feel like the home league is where Julio goes, right? Because people are like, Julio Jones. They just know the name. Julio Jones, slap a sticker up there, round 8, round 9, whatever it's going to end up being. I can almost guarantee you that Julio Jones's ADP is going to shoot too high for my comfort level.
Absolutely.
That's what I can pretty much guarantee you. Yes, he gets to play with Tom Brady. But look, this is not someone who's 32, right? We've talked about Adam Thielen and where he's on the borderline. This is not someone that's 31, Keenan Allen. This is a player that's going to be 34. this season. And so, I mean, essentially, he's living on borrowed time as it is, has not been able to stay healthy for 2 years. I will give Julio credit to your point. He's hit some underlying metrics when he was on the field, like his PFF receiving grade, 74.9, targets per route run versus man coverage, 27%, but his overall targets per route run, only 19%. His overall yards per route run, 1.76. So those are like wide receiver 3-ish numbers. So I think Jones, depending on what happens with Godwin, I mean, Jones might flash and give us a little something early in the season, but I'm not going to get carried away with Julio Jones. And then, with Chris Godwin, like I mentioned, I've got him as a wide receiver 3 at this point. I had him at the bottom of my wide receiver 3 tier. I've at least got him more towards the top. I'm more okay with taking him in that range, but I'm not going to start drafting Chris Godwin, if he's going wide receiver 18. Like, I don't know, man. Like, I don't trust I don't trust the Bucs enough, man. I don't trust them enough. Like, I don't know really what the hell they're doing. Godwin could not be on the pup and really still be battling, through. And for whatever reason, they just didn't put him on the pup. I have no clue. But I did move Mike Evans down as well, because at a minimum, we'll talk about Russell Gage in a minute. At a minimum, Mike Evans is no longer solely sitting in a situation where he's just going to be the target hog. We saw that at the end of last year, and it was really good. But I talked about Mike Evans earlier this offseason, had him below Michael Pittman, had him below, several guys, because his target share was 15% last year. Does anyone realize this? Mike Evans had a target share of 15%. His targets per route run were 18%. Mike Evans has been getting worse every year. And so now we know Julio's at least going to be there to fill in for Godwin early. They did still sign Russell Gage. And now Chris Godwin actually could be healthy sooner than what we thought. And last year, really the key for Mike Evans, when Antonio Brown was out, it didn't help him at all. Mike Evans is, his stuff stayed the same. Like, the roles were very different with the way that Brady thought about the offense, which is really the role probably Russell Gage is going to play. But when you look at Godwin being out is what shot Mike Evans to the moon. When Godwin was out, he had a 23% target share. He scored 14.7, 26.9, 26.7, and 25.9 points in PPR. And that includes playoff games. So I've moved Evans back down around where I had him. I think he's probably going to, we'll see what ADP does, but my guess is he's going to continue to be overdrafted. Right now, you got to spend an early to mid second round pick. Sometimes he slides to the late second round. For Mike Evans, but it's not a pick that I'm going to spend anymore, just because the underlying metrics, they're a little bit bothersome. He's 29 years old. He could end up being fine, but it's just going to be the big takeaway, Drake, is it's going to end up being spread out. This hurts everybody, really, except for Tom Brady. Like, the double whammy of Godwin's going to be back probably sooner than we thought. And we're going to have a situation where Julio Jones could be involved on top of Russell Gage. I think all the receivers take a slight downgrade today, except for Godwin, because we got a little bit better news on his health. As far as Russell Gage goes, I had to knock him down, man. Like, I had Russell Gage in my top 30. And again, I don't think of Russell Gage as Allen Lazard, as MVS. I think just too many strong underlying data points pointing to a potential wide receiver 2, wide receiver 1. Really a wide receiver 2, but in this offense had upside for wide receiver 1 weeks. So, I mean, I trust that data. So I know some folks just believe that that's like, they just put him in the same group as the others. I don't, but I still had to move him down, like, because for Russell Gage, it's a double whammy again, like with Godwin, plus the fact that now we have Julio Jones, which at a minimum, Drake, like, what it could do is just create enough of a rotation where Russell Gage can't be out there for 80% of the routes, right? He's out there 60%. Just because you got to give 20% to Julio, right? Or Julio's rotating with him and Chris Godwin early in the season. You got a three-way rotation across from Mike Evans. So there's a lot of ways, like, even if Gage's talent profile is solid and we like the contract and everything they gave him, there's a lot of ways Russell Gage could still fail. So I had him inside of basically my top 30. And now I've moved Russell Gage down to a tier 4 wide receiver. So he's a guy you want to draft as a wide receiver 4. And maybe he can still come through and give you wide receiver 3 and wide receiver 2 production. But I just don't, like, he was a cornerstone. Like, he was a guy that I was drafting quite a bit after, all the research that I had done on him. And again, it wasn't just freaking vacated bullshit targets. So get off my lawn with that shit. So with Gage, I had to move him down though, man. Just had to move him down because of the double whammy. Had it just been Julio signing and we still thought, Gage was going, we thought, Godwin was going on to the pup, like, I wouldn't be as dramatic with my shift down for Gage. But I just had to, man, because I mean, I know people are depending on me with the rankings, and so I had to really think through where he goes. But I mean, where I've got him right now, I've got him right by Christian Kirk. I've still got him by Tyler Boyd, Tim Patrick, other guys that are tertiary options, right? Kirk could be the lead option technically for the Jaguars. I don't think anybody's getting a 25-30% target share there. Like the leader will probably be 20%, right? Mm-hmm. So Gage, I think, is similar. He's probably going to be, he could maybe still get to a 20% target share, but now his floor is probably more like 15%. So he's grouped, with some of these other players like Tim Patrick that play in a good offense, have shown some breakout signs, even though they are older. So that's where we're at on Russell Gage and Chris Godwin and Mike Evans.
Dwain and I have this running joke that we've been doing for years about the ask me anything guys. You see it on Twitter all the time. It's like, hey, I'm sitting at the bus stop, ask me anything. Today would be the perfect Russell Gage ask me anything. It's like, Chris Godwin's not on the pup. Just signed Julio. Mike Evans still healthy. Fat Lenny skinny again. Ask me anything. Like that's what he's up to now.
That's totally how Russell Gage probably sounds today. He's so dejected.
We got to get him on the show.
But anyway, so Julio I put as a wide receiver 5. So I mean, it is what it is. 34 years old. Like I said, there's a few nice things to like. It's tough to really trust Julio for long. My guess is he's going to get steamed to the point where I'm just like, not interested. So I mean, I'm being reasonable here. I've got him around Jarvis Landry, Robbie Anderson, Devonta Parker. I have him ahead of those guys, slightly ahead, just behind Kenny Golladay.
Don't you slander my Devonta Parker?
Yeah,
I'm being reasonable. I'm in on it. Sure.
Julio Jones, like I've already seen some tweets that Julio Jones should be ranked ahead of Russell Gage.
Stop.
So it's like, I mean,
it's crazy. Julio Jones is a Hall of Famer, but I mean, you can't tell me. And I saw Ian Rappaport saying on some show today in a tweet, it's like, oh, we're going to get the old Julio, and they're getting.
We were going to get the old Julio last year, and they needed someone. About?
The guy can't stay healthy.
Someone. Yeah, they needed someone in Tennessee. And look, again, Julio was fine when he was healthy. I just don't know that he can stay healthy anymore. And who knows? Maybe he does flash big and he does some things for you. Mm-hmm. And that's fine. Just I think wide receiver 5 is where he belongs to be.
People want to come at me when I say, hey, I like Juju Smith-Schuster this year. Juju Smith-Schuster doesn't have a blown out hamstring and he's, applying for AARP. I mean, that's where we are with Julio Jones at this point. So, well, let's keep it rolling here. Sticking in Tampa, there was news that came out earlier about Leonard Fournette. It set the fantasy community on fire. Reports that he was about 30 pounds overweight. Like, I could use that weight. I am a scrawny SOB. Lenny even tweeted about it, making light of the situation. So remember, Tampa just gave him a 3-year, $21 million extension. He's handled all 3 downs before. There's no Gio Bernard. So when we are spending a second-round pick on Lenny Fournette, that's the guy we want. We want Leonard Fournette, who's going to be, getting, 84 targets like he did last year. But remember, now Rachaad White's in the mix. Very good pass catcher, but a rookie. I temper expectations with rookies, especially a rookie in a Tom Brady offense. I don't buy that he's going to day one trust this kid. No matter how good of a pass catcher he is, he's got to learn to block. And Brady does trust Fournette in that regard. So with all this noise around Fournette and the overreactions, because that's the theme of the show, middle of the second round, are you still pulling the trigger on Fat Lenny?
He falls to the end of the second round now. He falls into the third round.
Love it.
So let's
take him all the time.
Just buy the dip. Look, the problem with Lenny is there's a lot of backs with archetypes that we like that go in the same range as him. So I'm never just 100% on Lenny, but it's not because of him. It's because of there's a mix of backs I want to make sure I'm getting exposure to, right? Like Saquon Barkley, Aaron Jones. You got Leonard Fournette in that mix. You got Javonte Williams, down in that range. So it's hard just to to put a pin in Lenny and say, oh, he's the dude. I think there's a lot of similar players that I like a lot, and Lenny's one of them. And I'm really not that worried about this right now. But I do think Rachaad White's a great pick, in round 11, round 12, based on, just his overall profile. Who knows if he'll get the role or not, but if you play in the Bucs offense and you have the profile that Rachaad White does, like, you shouldn't make it past round 12 in fantasy drafts. The problem is, like, looking over at FFPC, he's a 9th rounder. He's an 8th rounder. And so, and I'm not saying that's an undoable price. You can there's ways to handle bad ADPs if you want access to a player, if there's other ways that you can make it up, right, with other positions, and you can swing back around and maybe get somebody that you think is more of a value at a different position that you're passing on around 9. So I think there's ways to still build your rosters to get Rachaad White even as his ADP rises, but it is starting to get a bit rich.
When you go up to the board, whether it's round 8, round 9 to get Rachaad White, whether it's maybe end of the second round to get Leonard Fournette, we want that draft board to come from our friends at draftwithredzone.com. We're back. We've teamed with these guys last year. We're doing it again for 2022. The product is outstanding, and I don't say that just because we have a deal with them. I used the board last year for my home league. It was awesome. And they took my advice. They made the board even bigger. The stickers are larger. They're still giving you that kick-ass Super Bowl ring. And it's not some chintzy plastic thing. This is a legit like knockoff Super Bowl ring that says Fantasy Football Champion. Give it to your league winner. It comes in a kick-ass case. You're going to love it. Draftwithredzone.com. Our promo code is FFHustle22. Again, it's FFHustle22. We're going to knock $10 off your package. These home league drafts, guys, they're going to be here in like 2 seconds. All of a sudden, you're going to be like, oh my God, it's the end of August. My home draft's coming up. This week, when you're listening to The Hustle, pull your phone out right now. We know what you're looking at on your phone. You're scrolling Instagram. You're checking out the chicks. Your wife doesn't know you're hitting those likes. Go over to draftwithredzone.com. FFHustle22 is the code. Get the draft board, get the kit, and your draft crew will love you come draft day. All right, Dwain, you love Kyler Murray. We've talked about that on the show for a long time. He's your focus. He's like the QB that you love leaving drafts with. Well, he got paid. Hooray. $230 million contract for Kyler Murray. Awesome. Good for him. We're happy for him. But this news leaked this week, and I'm curious who would have leaked something like this with the contract, that he needs to spend at least 4 hours a week in independent study, because apparently he has said, he just likes to kind of do it on the fly. The old Bill O'Reilly, like, F it, we'll do it live. Screw it. And that's Kyler Murray. He's not, sitting there grinding film like Peyton Manning or Rich Gannon for 40 hours a week. Is there anything to this for you? Are you concerned?
I just love that you threw Rich Gannon in as the extra player to Peyton Manning.
Because Gannon came out and said something about it this week. He's like, you should be doing it, 2-3 hours a day to get better at your craft, like you're trying to learn guitar or something.
Yeah. Okay. Thanks, Rich. Not really worried about it. Why? Because running is the cheat code. Kyler's gotten better in every pass, in all the pass metrics we want. Like, to me, like, God, I would love if this gave Kyler Murray a dip. Like, this is just stupid. I'm with you. It's like, who leaked this? Like, who leaked this? And my other thought is, so Kyler Murray has basically already nearly been a QB1 when healthy, the QB1 overall, already nearly been that when healthy, has been that for large stretches. And now you're going to tell me he could actually be better just because he could study? And there's a clause in his contract that makes him do it, so he can't play Call of Duty. Like, okay, like, whatever. Like, I think it's silly. I think this is complete freaking noise that I could care less about. Kyler Murray remains. If anything is pushing you off Kyler Murray, it should be the news around Trey Lance and knowing that you can get Trey Lance 2 rounds later, or getting Jalen Hurts a round later. Those are the only 2 things that should be pushing you off Kyler Murray. Really nothing else. People taking Dalton Schultz and freaking TJ Hawkinson in round 6. Way to lose just lose your draft. Just go ahead. Lose your draft. Take some scrub like Dalton Schultz when you could take Kyler Murray or Jalen Hurts. Like, come on.
Dwain says that wearing a Dallas Cowboys t-shirt. I love it.
Dallas likes Dalton Schultz. It's fine. Like, he got he's playing on the franchise tag, but like, he's not an elite playmaker. Like, it's just, he's not going to win your league. Kyler Murray could help you win your league. Jalen Hurts could help you win your league. Trey Lance could help you win your league because they fit the right archetype, the right profile for their position. And people just, this whole thing with Dalton Schultz going in the 6th round, he should be an 8th round pick. He and TJ Hawkinson should be going in the same round as Dallas Goedert. Sorry, get off my soapbox.
Get off this guy's lawn. Dwain is, if anything, I've known Dwain for 5 years now. Dwain is meticulous about reading the show notes, and he knew we would talk about Trey Lance next. That's a complete lie. We never have show notes. But so Trey Lance is going to be the guy in San Francisco. It's come out now. Shanahan has said, hey, we're moving on from Jimmy G. He is healthy. He's seeking a trade. He's good to throw. I was just reading about it earlier. hooray for Jimmy G. Maybe he ends up in Cleveland. Maybe he goes to Seattle, see if they can find a trade partner, or else maybe they just release him. So it's the Trey Lance show. Trey Lance, I heard you talking on Sirius XM. You said should be the QB7 in fantasy this year. I think because so many casual players, and I know a lot of guys listen to the show, they're big high stakes guys, and you're playing against some sharks. But if you're not, you're playing in your casual home league, I think Trey Lance is going to be the steal of steals this year because all your buddies remember watching Jimmy Garoppolo literally throw a pass that Jaquiski Tart dropped, or not. If he drops it, the 49ers are in the Super Bowl, and Jimmy G is seen in a different light right now. So they're going to not remember. They're going to think, oh, yeah, Trey Lance, that kid, he played a little bit. He can't really throw, blah, 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 blah. Trey Lance is going to set the world on fire in fantasy this year, and people are going to steal him. I'm telling you, as like QB 10 or later in their home league draft, Dwayne. I call it right now. Hero of the home league has spoken.
Yeah, I mean, Trey Lance is going later in ESPN and Yahoo right now. Not super late though. Like he's still going right at the top 12. I'd have to go back and look, but like it's higher than you think. It's not just an FFPC and underdog thing, but he's a little bit behind, in the home leagues, but not as far as what I thought he would be. And underdog's not a home league, right? Underdog's definitely, even though it's not high stakes necessarily, depending on what you play in, like it is a sharper crowd, like people that are in tune with what's going on earlier in the season if you're drafting that many teams. But with Trey Lance, like, look, if you rush for 1,000 yards, it's just super, super hard to not finish as a top 8 quarterback. Like, and he's probably going to rush for 1,000 yards. So it's pretty simple with Trey Lance. Then you tack on, if he does improve as a passer, and I know there are a lot of questions there. His PFF passing grade was a 61.1, which is freaking up. It's terrible. It's bad, but it's a small sample. But when you look at the fact that he has Debo, you look at the fact he's got George Kittle, he's got Brandon Ayuk, like literally like Trey Lance, you might get 2 rounds later than Jalen Hurts, and he's a complete arbitrage on Jalen Hurts. Like, because Jalen Hurts is the same profile that also has 3 really good weapons, right? If you look at this, Trey Lance could be a player that you're getting 3 to 4 rounds after Lamar Jackson, and you're getting the exact same thing because so much of their value depends on, their rushing ability. But Trey Lance, you could argue, has maybe better. I think he has better weapons overall, like when you throw Ayuk in versus what Lamar Jackson has. So it's just a situation where he fits the profile. And you can get him, to your point, later in draft. So even though I move him up to RB7 now, and the only thing I needed to know is, like, I just want to know Jimmy G was going to be gone. And I think we've heard enough, right? Kyle Shanahan, I think, is just sick of it. He said, we've moved on. It's Trey Lance's team. That, honestly, I had no clue we would get that kind of a response from Shanahan. Like, maybe he's just tired of it. I don't know what. But to get that kind of a nod from Shanahan is what I needed. I hope to see Jimmy Garoppolo traded. Sounds like that won't happen until later. So, I mean, there's always still a chance if Jimmy G's on the roster, if Lance falters, they could go back to Jimmy G. We saw, Washington move away from Robert Griffin, moved over to Kirk Cousins. So, I mean, there's all sorts of weird things that can happen here. But overall, like, Trey Lance is just too tough of a pick, like, due to the upside, right? Just to, it's not really target him, especially to your point, like in rounds 9, 10, and 11 of drafts where you can get him. He's going to move up on underdog and some of these other things. Dude, but I would take him ahead of Joe Burrow, take him ahead of Tom Brady, take him ahead of Russell Wilson, take him ahead of Dak Prescott. And all you need to know is 1,000 yards rushing. 1,000 yards rushing, 800 to 1,000 yards rushing. It's almost impossible to not be a top 8 quarterback if you do that.
I'm looking at his numbers. I went over to Fantasy Pros, and they have ESPN, Yahoo, Sleeper, all that good stuff. He is composite QB 14 right now. 14th on ESPN, Yahoo, Fantrax, RT Sports. He's 13th on Sleeper.
Yeah, you got to get rid of Mock Draft Central. That's the biggest piece of crap ever if you're over there. But, yeah, look.
Welcome to the show, our new sponsor, Mock Draft Central. Oh, wait, maybe not.
I don't know why anybody even does a mock draft anymore. Like, why does anybody look at mock drafts?
Use promo code HUSTLE, go to Underdog Fantasy, and for $3 to $5, you can get in fire and actual bullets. That's what you want to do, folks. Look at that. We didn't have anything to talk about. I'm here swigging beers, but I love Trey Lance. Let me ask you this. So Trey Lance, Jalen Hurts, and Justin Fields. I would dare say, would you say Justin Fields is the most talented of the 3 of them?
Just who do we have? We got Justin Fields, Trey Lance, and who?
Jalen Hurts.
I mean, I think they're all close at this point. I think we don't know for sure, to be honest.
I love the idea.
I think Jalen Hurts has proven enough. The problem that Fields has, he's going to give you the rushing, and you should definitely be paying attention to him. And he's a great pick to make in fantasy drafts. If you end up with a low end QB1 and you want to grab him as your upside, or you just miss on the last tier of quarterbacks that should be starters, then you just grab Justin Fields and you just say screw it, and don't worry about it. But I think they're all close. I don't think we know for sure. I think right now I would have to lean to the fact that Jalen Hurts has at least proven to us, right, that he can do it over the course of a fantasy season.
My point here with everybody listening, if you can get Justin Fields as your backup, I'm not saying draft Justin Fields as your starter. Don't do that. If you can get Justin Fields and you're taking a backup, like that's a lottery ticket you're trying to win your league with, because if he hits, somehow this line pulls it together, this new offense actually matriculates the football down the field, Justin Fields has top 5 upside. He's a very, very talented kid. You can take him or who else in that range? Jameis, Matt Ryan, Trevor Lawrence, Tua. Come on. Forget about that bullshit. That I'm in on Justin Fields. Not only that, he is my QB2 in the Scott Fish Bowl. So in order to bring me fantasy fortune and fame, I need a big year of Justin Fields. But we digress. Let's stay with the 49ers, though. And let me quickly get your thoughts on this backfield. So word gets out now that, like, we're surprised at all. Hey, the 49ers like using a committee in approach where we've got Eli Mitchell, and now we've got Tyrion Davis-Price, the rookie banger that everyone is excited about in fantasy. Don't forget Jeff Wilson Jr. still hanging around. And, we got the kid from Ohio State who couldn't, beat my grandmother in a race. So what do you think about this crew in San Francisco? Is this just driving down Eli Mitchell's price, or do you want to say, I'll take the cheaper guy, as Bob Harris likes to always say, and give me Tyrion Davis-Price. Let me see what he can do.
Yeah, I think Tyrion Davis-Price is the easy pick. He's got the 3rd round capital. He can do something that Elijah Mitchell, is really not built to do, which is really hammer between the tackles. They wanted Trey Sermon to do that last year. He wasn't able to do it. And I know people are like, well, Trey Sermon could still be around, and he could. But at the end of the day, they spent a 3rd round pick on Tyrion Davis-Price. I think that tells me pretty much what I need to know about Trey Sermon and where the coaching staffs, where their heads are. Good grief, my dogs. Anyway, sorry. So
are they in the pool? Dwain just built a pool in his backyard, folks.
I don't know what my dogs are doing. My son's probably coming inside he probably went to work out. So, but Tyrion Davis-Price, he's a player that I love targeting. He's starting to move up in ADP. But I mean, right now, like over on ESPN leagues, over on Yahoo, like you can get him in around 15. Like he's free. He's starting to get more expensive, like in some of the sharper drafts. FFPC last night went in round 11. Of course, every running back went like a round or two early last night, but over in home leagues, you can still get him for very cheap.
Oh my God. I'm looking him up on Fantasy Pros here. He is, geez Louise, what is he? He's running back 61 off the board behind Sony Michel, Deonta
Yeah, he's undrafted in most home leagues right now. People don't even know who this guy is. They think like TDP is like, an acronym for something. They don't know it's a 49er running back.
That's another subcategory on Pornhub. Like we said, we're getting through it quick tonight, folks. I don't even know all the stuff that's on there. I thought I watched everything during COVID, but apparently I missed a few things. So let me now swing over to Kansas City. Don't know how much of a story this is, but Clyde Edwards-Helaire is on the NFI pup list. He is sick. They said he came in with an illness. Who knows? Maybe he's got COVID. Maybe he's just sick. You worry about this at all with Jerick McKinnon still there, and just CEH kind of not being the blazer that we thought he would be when they spent a 1st round pick on him? I'm kind of in on CEH this year, to be honest. I'm grabbing him all over the place. He and Miles Sanders, one of those two guys is going to hit. You're going to get that regression back to the mean, and they're going to be a valuable running back 2 for you. So I'm kind of in on CEH. I like the offense. I like the fact that they got rid of Darrell Williams. There's no more Damian Williams. It's CEH. And if you're around the goal line, who do you think is going to get these carries? It's CEH. I'm a big fan of him right there. Dwain just has a dog in a headlock a second ago. You guys, unless you're watching on YouTube, you didn't see that.
My dogs are doing, man. Sorry. Yeah, it's my son. He's in there. He just got back from working out. Like, I don't know. At nighttime, they get all weird and they think there's like a stranger here. But anyway, yeah, with CEH, look, it's not good news. Like, can CEH just please have like, a normal offseason where he's not hurt or gallbladder surgery or something crappy? Like, can we just get a normal offseason? Like, every piece of news around this dude seems to be bad. ADP is falling. It's fallen like a stone. And look, off of signing Jerick McKinnon, a journeyman. So that tells you everything that people think about CEH. Last night, CEH was still sitting on the board, I want to say in the 7th round, the FFPC draft, and we needed a running back, and we just passed him. We said, nah.
Really?
Yeah.
I'm into him.
It's just, so I don't know. I got to think about him more I was on him. Like, I like CEH early, but it's like, can we just get one piece of normal news about CEH? I'm so sick of this crap. So not a fast guy, not explosive, hasn't really proven that he can demand targets in the passing game. That's his route. He needs to catch passes in the new Chiefs offense. Like, that's what he needs to do, but we have no clue if that's really going to happen. So, yeah, I'm thinking about what to do with his ranking, because early in the offseason, I was pretty much in. I was like, we're going to get the Chiefs backfield. We got an offense that's going to change, still has the first round draft capital. He's been playing hurt for 2 years. And now here we go again. CEH on the pup, whatever. It's like, it's not enough to make me really move him right now, but I've honestly been just more toying with moving CEH down because I'm just not comfortable drafting him, anymore, even though he's on the Chiefs. So maybe I'm wrong with that. But it's honestly right now, I'd rather a round or two later get Kareem Hunt. I would rather have James Cook. I'd rather have Cordarrelle Patterson right now in the CEH. But again, ADP matters. ADP matters as well. Like, CEH still, slightly above those guys and what his costs are. And he could still end up paying off. So I'm trying to not overreact, to CEH, as much as I may be sitting here acting like, wow, I'm just so sick of CEH. It's like, it's, how it is, Drake. You got a player like this in an offense where, like, man, if you could just seize it, like, this could be fantasy gold, and he just hasn't been able to.
No, I mean, this is a guy who's,
Toronto
career
Dave
record is 36 receptions.
Toronto Dave says, I move CEH a lot down from off my board to off my board. So that's good.
I hope it's a board he got over at draftwithredzone.com. Promo code FFHustle22. I will crowbar that in all preseason long, folks. Just you wait. Hey, we're talking about buying guys on the dip. I mentioned Miles Sanders. I mentioned CEH. I think there's a dip coming on our guy Travis Etienne, because there's now news that James Robinson, you remember James Robinson? He was the UDFA who came out. He was a top 10 running back as a rookie. Everyone loved him. Well, now we got Doug Marrone, or not Doug Marrone. Geez, Louise. I'm thinking of, other jerk-off coaches who have, haunted my dreams. It's Doug Peterson. Doug Peterson is the head coach. And James Robinson now not on the pup. So he had the torn Achilles, I believe, right? And now he's back. Tough to come back from a foot injury like that. Etienne is a very, very talented kid. He played with Trevor Lawrence in college. He's explosive. I've compared him to Reggie Bush. We think he's going to catch a lot of balls out of the backfield. Do you think this James Robinson news is going to now suppress Etienne's value another round? And now, boom, we're getting a kid who's going to be a top 12 running back in like the 4th.
I hope so. Because honestly, like, the projections that we have on Etienne right now are splitting a backfield with someone and him getting the passing down role. So, like, and that still makes him a 3rd round pick in fantasy leagues for PPR and half PPR. And standard, he does move down some. So yeah, if he's going to become a 4th round pick, all in, just like last year when we got the rumor at the end, remember DeAndre Swift was hurt and he started falling down draft boards and you could get him in the 4th round. Absolutely would love it with Etienne. Not worried about it. Still think that, you find spending a 3rd round pick. If James Robinson practices 100% tomorrow, I don't care, because of Travis Etienne's profile. He's the pass catching back, gonna play when the Jaguars behind. Guess what the Jaguars are gonna do? They're gonna trail. Okay. So it's the perfect profile. The best comp is DeAndre Swift. And who knows, Travis Etienne may not even be that great. He might just be an explosive playmaker. I've heard a lot of people say he's overrated. I think he checks a lot of great metrics off that I care about. We'll see. The role is a really good role for the offense that he plays on. So any discount that we can get out of James Robinson. And guess what? By the way, we could still just see Travis Etienne handle 65% of the work. And we could also still see James Robinson just not be that good in his first year back from Achilles. We saw it last year at the end of the year with Cam Akers. These folks try to make these quick recoveries from these severe injuries. Doesn't always go well. So I feel like, you're still basically getting to purchase Etienne at near his floor if you're getting him in the 4th round. And right now in home leagues and ESPN, he's going in the 5th round. Etienne's a 5th round pick.
Oh my God.
Yeah, over in ESPN, near a 5th round pick, I believe, on Yahoo as well. So like, this is a player that, for a lot of folks listening to this, if you're not going to play in any of these other high stakes leagues, it's good for you. Like in home leagues, Etienne is already cheap.
Let's go to Buffalo for our final nugget, where news came out today that we know someone is going to play in the slot for Buffalo. We're now without Cole Beasley. We're without Emmanuel Sanders. So Cole Beasley and his 112 targets, see ya. Emmanuel Sanders, 72 targets, see you later. Gabe Davis, he's going to ascend to one of those outside roles. Someone's got to play the slot. Is it going to be Isaiah McKenzie, who the team re-signed, or will it be former New York Jet Jamison Crowder, who they brought in on a 1-year, $2 million contract? So not a lot of money invested in either guy, to be honest. But the news came out that McKenzie at this point was playing the slot. That's an interesting role, Dwain, because we know the vacated targets and yada, yada, yada. But we want any piece of this puzzle we can get in Buffalo. And all of these guys are basically undrafted at this point. You can get them whenever you want late in the draft. So what are your thoughts on Crowder or McKenzie? A lean either way. It's just, maybe we'll just watch it through camp and just take a shot on one or both late.
Yeah, I mean, you hit it. It's the Buffalo offense, and if you can take late dart throws at it, like Jamison Crowder's proven he can be a good player, like over extended periods.
Mm-hmm.
Isaiah McKenzie has proven he can be a good player over small samples. Khalil Shakir also making a lot of noise in camp right now, with Crowder missing a couple of practices. So I think there's a lot of different ways that you could go with the slot receiver situation in Buffalo. Also hearing that they could use more 12 and 13 personnel, right? Remember, they signed O.J. Howard. I think this is an offense that could continue to pass. It could be an offense that continue to, to push the pace with the passing game, but they might be a lot more multiple, right? And all the different looks. The one challenge we're going to have is honestly, what if all of these receivers, outside of Stephon Diggs and maybe outside of what we're getting with Gabe Davis, it just turns into a big rotation, between all of them. But at the end of the day, you're buying, to your point, into the Buffalo offense. You're getting these people for free. Like Isaiah McKenzie, you can get, 17th, 18th round, of even over on best ball drafts. Khalil Shakir does not get drafted. Jamison Crowder, round 12 to 14, somewhere in there. I'm honestly inclined to kind of just bet on the 2 later picks, with all the noise that's going around. But I mean, if you follow the Bills reporters, every single person is going to be critical to this offense. It's like Jamison Crowder is going to be the starter. And it's like Isaiah McKenzie, capital B, capital I, capital G, going to have a big role in the offense. And then Khalil Shakir, love everything he's doing, can't be covered. And then James Cook just breaking down linebackers and safety. Not all of these guys obviously can hit, but in a great offense, getting to take the late. I love James Cook out of all those the most, because of the position that he plays. And, I think that he probably brings the most talent to the table. But outside of that, yeah, I like the late round flyers on some of the Bills, and maybe start working Khalil Shakir and into, your last round picks, over on Underdog or even over on DraftKings.
Standing out in the sun in Western New York. It's 150 degrees. Love hyperbole. Ask me anything. That's the life of a Bills beat reporter. Dwain, that's all I had for you, my friend. I just want to remind everybody, go over to pff.com. Boy, do we have a deal for you. 40% off. Promo code PFF40 is going to save you 40% off an annual PFF subscription. You're not going to find a better deal this season, I don't think. Geez, usually promo code HUSTLE saves you 25. I didn't even read that for you today. PFF40 saves you 40%. You're going to get Dwayne's locked articles. You're going to get Nate Yankee's work. You're going to get Ian Harditz's work. It's awesome. Awesome stuff over there. If only they could get my sign in correctly. This might be a sign from God, Dwayne. Every time I sign into PFF, I put in my password. It's incorrect. They lock me out immediately. They say, never visit this site again. And then I have to email someone and they let me back in. But I think they're trying to tell me something.
Yeah. Well, I don't know, Drake. It's late. It's a Tuesday. Is it Tuesday or is it Wednesday? It's Tuesday.
It is Tuesday. It's an old school Tuesday night hustle.
Yeah, like we never do it on Tuesday anymore. So,
well, we so happy everybody could hang with us today. We got a lot of fun stuff coming up. A lot of great drafts. Dwain and I are going to be doing the pros versus Joes big time high stakes draft on Sunday night, 8 p.m. So come hang out with us on the YouTube channel. That'll be a YouTube exclusive, I believe, where we will be drafting a high stakes team against a bunch of really, really smart guys. You're not going to want to miss that. So for Mr. McFarland, follow him on Twitter at Dwain McFarland. I am at Drake Fantasy. The show is at FF Hustle. Thanks, everybody. And remember to never get out hustled. Ask us anything.